In May 2022, a cryptocurrency called TerraUSD was supposed to be one of the safest assets in the digital economy. It was a stablecoin, designed to always be worth exactly $1. $40 billion had been invested in the Terra ecosystem by institutions, retail investors, and pension funds around the world. And then in the span of 4 days, it collapsed to nearly zero. The people behind it had vanished, and the man who built it was on the run. This is the Terra Luna story, one of the most catastrophic collapses in financial history, and a case that is still playing out in courtrooms in 2026. To understand why Terra collapsed, you first need to understand what it was claiming to be. Do Kwon, a 31-year-old South Korean entrepreneur who spoke with the confidence of someone who had already won, founded Terraform Labs in 2018. His flagship product was a two-token system. TerraUSD, also known as UST, was an algorithmic stablecoin designed to maintain a $1 peg. Luna was the sister token that provided the mechanism for maintaining that peg. The relationship between the two was the core of everything. Traditional stablecoins like USDT or USDC maintain their dollar peg by holding actual dollars in reserve, real money sitting in a bank account that backs every token in circulation. Terra did not do this. Instead, it used an algorithmic mechanism. When UST drifted above $1, traders were incentivized to burn Luna to mint more UST, increasing supply and pushing the price back down. When UST fell below $1, traders were incentivized to burn UST to mint Luna, reducing supply and pushing the price back up. The system depended entirely on continuous market confidence and arbitrage activity to function. There were no actual dollar reserves backing any of it. Do Kwon understood this was a vulnerability. In early 2022, he began building a Bitcoin reserve through an organization called the Luna Foundation Guard, accumulating billions of dollars in Bitcoin to serve as a backstop for UST in the event of a depeg event. By May 2022, the Luna Foundation Guard held approximately $3.5 billion in Bitcoin reserves. Do Kwon publicly stated this was enough to protect the peg under any market conditions. He was wrong. The Terra ecosystem had also attracted enormous deposits through a protocol called Anchor. Anchor was offering depositors a guaranteed 20% annual yield on UST deposits, a return that had no sustainable basis in reality. At its peak, Anchor held over $14 billion in UST deposits from hundreds of thousands of individual investors who believed they had found a safe, high-yield savings account denominated in a stable dollar asset. That 20% yield was being subsidized by Terraform Labs itself, essentially paying out reserves to maintain an artificially attractive rate that was drawing in billions in new deposits. It was unsustainable by design, and the people building it knew it. On May 7, 2022, a series of large UST withdrawals from Anchor began. Approximately $2 billion was pulled out in a short period. The exact source of these withdrawals remains disputed. What is not disputed is what happened next. UST began to lose its dollar peg, slipping to around 98 cents. Under normal circumstances, the algorithmic mechanism should have corrected this. Instead, it triggered a feedback loop that became impossible to stop. As UST fell below its peg, the algorithmic mechanism minted more Luna to absorb the excess UST supply. But the more Luna was minted, the more the Luna price fell. And the more Luna fell, the less effective each new unit of Luna was at restoring the peg. This is what economists call a death spiral, a self-reinforcing collapse where every mechanism designed to stabilize the system instead accelerates its destruction. Luna's circulating supply went from roughly 340 million tokens to 6.5 trillion tokens in a matter of days. The price went from $80 to a fraction of a cent. The Luna Foundation Guard deployed its $3.5 billion Bitcoin reserve to defend the peg. It was gone within 48 hours. It bought almost nothing. The Bitcoin was liquidated into a falling market, contributing to a broader crypto sell-off that drove Bitcoin from around $35,000 to under $25,000 in the same period. The reserves that were supposed to be the ultimate backstop were insufficient by an order of magnitude against the scale of panic withdrawals. By May 13, 2022, the Terra blockchain had been halted twice. UST was trading at around 10 cents. Luna was essentially worthless. Approximately $40 billion in value had been destroyed in 4 days. Individual investors who had deposited their life savings into Anchor at 20% yield watched their accounts become worthless overnight. Retirement funds, college funds, and life savings were wiped out. Reports of severe financial and psychological distress from victims emerged from South Korea, the United States, and across Asia. At least several deaths were reported in connection with losses from the Terra collapse. Do Kwon's response to the collapse was extraordinary in its defiance. While the ecosystem was still crashing, he was posting on social media, dismissing critics, and insisting the system could be rebuilt. In the days following the collapse, he proposed a hard fork of the Terra blockchain, essentially creating a new Luna token and abandoning the original chain. This proposal was widely seen as an attempt to preserve his position and continue operations rather than address the losses of existing victims. From a financial crime and regulatory standpoint, the Terra case raises fundamental questions that regulators and prosecutors have been working to answer ever since. Was the 20% Anchor yield a fraudulent inducement? A promised return that Terraform Labs knew was unsustainable and subsidized specifically to attract deposits before an inevitable collapse? Were the public statements Do Kwon made about the resilience of the peg mechanism and the sufficiency of the Bitcoin reserves materially misleading to investors? Did the algorithmic mechanism itself constitute an unregistered security? The SEC filed civil charges against Do Kwon and Terraform Labs in February 2023, alleging they had raised billions through the unregistered sale of securities and had made fraudulent misrepresentations about the stability of UST and the use of the Chai payment platform to drive adoption. The SEC alleged that Do Kwon and Terraform Labs had specifically misled investors about whether UST was actually being used in real-world transactions or whether those transactions were artificially simulated to create the appearance of adoption. Do Kwon had fled South Korea before charges were filed. He was eventually located in Montenegro in March 2023 while attempting to travel on falsified documents. He was arrested at Podgorica Airport carrying a Costa Rican passport that was later determined to be fraudulent. A legal battle over extradition followed. Both South Korea and the United States sought to extradite him. In December 2023, a Montenegrin court ruled he would be extradited to the United States. After further legal challenges, his extradition to the U.S. was confirmed in 2024, and criminal proceedings have continued into 2026. Terraform Labs filed for bankruptcy in January 2024. In June 2024, a jury found Do Kwon and Terraform Labs liable on all counts in the SEC civil case. The damages ruling established that the fraud had caused billions of dollars in investor losses. Parallel criminal proceedings have continued as prosecutors build their case. The Terra Luna collapse is significant beyond the scale of the financial loss. It was a proof of concept that an algorithmic stablecoin, a stablecoin backed by math and market incentives rather than real reserves, cannot withstand a sustained loss of confidence. The mechanism that was supposed to be self-correcting became self-destructive the moment confidence broke. Every subsequent proposal for algorithmic stablecoins has had to contend with what happened to Terra. It also demonstrated once again that in crypto markets, the promises of yields that are dramatically higher than anything available in traditional finance should be treated as the most serious possible red flag. A 20% guaranteed yield on a dollar-pegged asset in an environment where U.S. Treasury bonds were yielding 2% was not an opportunity. It was a warning sign. The only way to sustain that yield was to attract new money to pay existing depositors, the defining characteristic of a Ponzi structure regardless of the technology underneath it. The warning signs were all there from the beginning. An algorithmic peg with no real reserves. A yield that had no legitimate source of return. A founder who responded to every critic with mockery rather than transparency. Billions in deposits with no regulatory oversight or deposit insurance. If you understand those 4 red flags, you can protect yourself from the next Terra, and there will always be a next one. Subscribe to Ledger and Crime for new financial crime cases every week. Because criminals never stop, and neither do we.